Hello everybody, been a little while. I hope you've all been well. The topic of today's video is the paranormal. I've recently been watching, I should say marathoning, the paranormal investigation series called Most Haunted. It started in 2001 or 2002 and went until 2013 when it was cancelled, but it started up again this year from what I've read. It was basically a bunch of people. They went to these supposedly haunted locations with a medium, and they investigated them. Night vision cameras, EMF meters, the typical stuff that people use when they want to go and hunt ghosts. Trigger objects, which is like where they put something down on a piece of paper and draw around it, and then wait, and then come back at the end of the session and see if it's been moved at all. Things like that. And they have the medium who's talking about the spirits that might be resident in whatever location they're in. Of course, I take it all with a grain or two of salt, because I don't imagine that absolutely everything that happened on there was paranormal in nature, or even real in some cases. But it's very, very interesting to watch, and some of the people on it are quite interesting. They had a historian who they visited a haunted place that he owned in one of the early episodes, and then they invited him to be the resident historian for the second series. And he basically he researched everything beforehand, the history of the place, about the people who lived there, and also investigated the reported ghost sightings and poltergeist activity and so on. And then he would be able to give various information, like this room was the bedroom of this person, this place was built by somebody, the cellar dates back to an earlier building, etc. And if a medium identified a particular spirit by name, then he would be able to tell them, if they existed, who they were, the dates that they lived, and so on and so forth. It's an interesting show to watch if you like that kind of thing, which I do. I've always been interested in the paranormal. My cousin recently invited me to join the paranormal investigation group that she and some of her friends from other paranormal investigation networks had set up together. So hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, I'll be able to go out on investigations with them. And so there are quite a few places around the country that I know of that I would like to visit. So yeah, hopefully I get to do that. It'll be quite fun. As for paranormal experiences personally, I've had at least 3 that I can recall. The first one that I remember, I was about 5 or 6, and sleeping at home, woke up in the middle of the night, and there was this glowing white figure standing at the end of my bed. Now, it was recognisable as a person. One head, 2 arms, 2 legs, etc. There was sort of a basic features. Well, at least my memory of the whole thing is very cloudy, so I can't remember exactly how clear this apparition was. But at the time, I identified it as my maternal grandmother, who had died in 1991. Based on looking at photos of her, that's what this apparition looked like to me. I wasn't when I saw it, whatever it was. I wasn't worried that it was going to harm me. I was just scared that there was a ghost in my room. One of the usual explanations for waking up and seeing ghosts is a waking dream. Now, waking dreams are normally accompanied with sleep paralysis, but I didn't have this. I could move, and I was also able to call out to my parents. So it wasn't a waking dream. I stared at it. It stared right back at me, and I just stared at it for a while. It didn't move or anything, and then I called out for my parents, and my dad came in and turned the light on, and it disappeared. Now, I told him what I'd seen. I said that it was standing underneath my light fixture, though looking back it probably wasn't, because the light fixture isn't beyond the end of my bed. He said it was probably a reflection of somebody down in the street, which, to be honest, was a load of bollocks, because outside my window you could not see the street for the fir trees, and how is it possible that a reflection in your light bulb could appear as a full-bodied apparition on your bedroom floor? So, yeah, he was probably very tired and not quite understanding what I meant, so he came up with the best explanation that he could. But yeah, it was definitely a full-bodied apparition. I haven't seen it since. It's been at least 20 years since then. I can't remember if anything else happened in the intervening years. But maybe 3 years ago, I was up very late, later than I should have been. And this was, at the time that my mother would still wake up, see my light come in and have a go at me and tell me to go to bed. And I was sitting there on my computer, at 3:30 in the morning, and then I hear this bang on my door, and I look around and the door swings open, and I was fully expecting my mother to come in, because that's what she did. She would bang the door open and come right in, but there was nothing. And I thought, okay, maybe she's gone into the toilet, because sometimes what she would do is I would hear her walking outside, go to the bathroom, and then come in to my room, and I waited for her. I didn't hear the light in the toilet go on, I didn't hear the door close, I waited a bit more, nothing else happened, and I went out, had a look around. Everybody's door was closed, everyone was asleep. I even went downstairs and had a look around to see if there was an intruder in the house, but there was nothing. So yeah, I pretty much just accepted at that point that, considering that that it sounded exactly like a person banging my door and it swinging open, and all that. I pretty much just accepted that it was a ghost or something like that, because nothing just bangs on your door out of nowhere. And then last year or the year before, probably the year before, the same thing happened again. Again I was up very, very late, and then there was a bang on the door, and the door moved and everything, but nobody came in. So yeah, that's the last one that I can recall happening. Though then it's possible that there's things that I've forgotten about, or things that happened that I didn't consider to be paranormal. Those are just the three things that I can remember that don't have a logical explanation for them, or scientific explanation, rational explanation. I visited supposedly haunted places, including the local abbey, which was a manor house for several hundred years until the family line died out and the title became extinct. So it's now the National Sports Centre, where the England football team trains. For when they're going on the World Cup and so on. I don't ever recall seeing anything since then. Actually, no. There was one other thing. My cat Willow. She's the dark one, the big dark one. She was staying overnight at the vet's. She'd had some procedure done, and they wanted her to stay overnight for observation. And I'd woken up in the morning, gone down to make myself some breakfast, and I saw my cat, and I let her outside, and there's a very, very, very big difference between my two cats. Scooby does have some similar colouring, but not a lot of it. She's mostly white, and she's a hell of a lot smaller. And once I'd had my breakfast, I was walking back to my bedroom, and I thought, hang on a minute, Willow's at the vet. Why on earth did I see her here? So I rang up my mum, and I said to her, Willow's still at the vet, right? You didn't come pick her up this morning and bring her home, did you? She said, no, it's fine. I don't know, she's still at the vet. And I said, well, I just let her outside. And she thought that was very odd. I mean, she thought that I must have I must have let Scooby out, but like I said, there's a very big difference between the two of them, and I never mistake one for the other. So, she actually rang up the vets to make sure that everything was okay with Willow, to see that, make sure that she hadn't died in the night or something, and, her ghost had returned home or something. But no, that was, she was fine, and she still is fine. She's just a little bit doddery in her old age now. This was maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe long, maybe a bit I can't remember. But yeah, the only other thing that because of there's no way in hell that what I saw was Scooby, because like I said, she's far too different for me to ever mistake her for Willow. Now either it was Willow astrally projecting or something, or it was one of the previous cats that was killed on the road when I was very, very young, like 4, maybe. Her name was Garfield, and she was a tortoiseshell, much like Willow. But yeah, that's the only other one that I can think of for now. I don't know if my interest in the paranormal stemmed from the experience I had that night when I woke up and saw what looked like my grandmother standing at the foot of my bed. But I've always really enjoyed movies based around the paranormal, video games, and I even had a few of those choose your own adventure books about ghost hunting. One of them was about the one that I particularly remember was a train, an old train, and it was there are several places that you can go. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the to the restaurant car? Do you want to go to first class? Do you want to go to third class? Choose whichever one you go. You pick the page and you turn to it, and then you can choose what to do in certain situations. And you never get the same ending. Well, no, you would get the same ending twice because there's only a few endings in it. But you never take the same journey twice unless you intend to. Particularly an interesting game that I played was called The Lost Crown, a ghost hunting adventure, which is about this guy who he sees something he shouldn't in his company's database, and he knows that they know he's seen it because of the system logs, and he knows that because he's seen it, he's in a lot of trouble, so he runs away. He just picks a random place to go, and that happens to be the fictional town of Saxton in East Anglia. It's a coastal fishing community, and things in Saxton are a bit off. The train that he takes to get to Saxton is an old steam train, though when he talks to the station master at the end of the journey, he says, "Oh, this is a fabulous old train." The station master says, "Oh, sir, she may be lacking a bit of shine here and there, but she's not old." Which, implies that he's out of time. And of course the train is clad in British Rail livery, and British Rail hasn't existed since 1997. And things are a little bit it's almost like at heart the town is in the present day, because there's talk of somewhat who died in the 1960s, and there's people there who remember him from the past, but of course there's the station master who thinks that a steam train is a current thing and all of that. So he sees, when he goes out to a farmhouse, he talks to this couple that live there, and one of them makes the lady of the house makes him lunch, and then he goes back to town, and talks to somebody about them, it turns out that they died in a house fire in the 1950s. And it's a sort of, you go around looking for ghosts in, you know, both modern and traditional ways. You know, you use EMF meters, night vision cameras, dictaphones, but then there's and in one instance you also do scrying, which is you pour water over a mirror and you use that to contact any spirits that might be there, and so on and so forth. And eventually he finds out that there was a family there protecting the final lost crown of Saxon England, because they believed that if the crown was removed from its resting place, that a great tragedy would befall the nation. And, you know, they murdered and conducted, you know, black magic and so on in order to keep the crown from being disturbed. And your objective is to find this crown. I won't give too much away out of it, but yeah, you do, and things obviously don't work out too well. But yeah, it's not, you know, it's not like a AAA title with amazing graphics or anything. It's an indie game made, you know, by a few guys who you know, do it for fun, really. But it's a very good game, and there's a sequel in the works, which I'm much looking forward to. Yeah, I do like that sort of stuff. I keep looking around for more ghost hunting games to play and so on. And hopefully I'll have a lot of fun when and if I get to go on investigations with this paranormal group I've joined. Anyway, we're going on holiday to Gibraltar next week, like I said, so I might be able to get a video recorded out while I'm out there, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to upload it there. You might have to wait until I get home for it, but, you know, we're only going for a week, so it's not too long. You can survive without me for that long, I think. Anyway, be seeing you.